What if the perfect life was a perfect lie? Imagine a fairytale romance, a handsome doctor, a beautiful wife, for lovely children, a mansion in La Jolla. Now, imagine it all ending in a hail of bullets on a quiet Sunday morning. This isn't a Hollywood movie. It's the shocking true story of Betty Broderick, a case that still divides people decades later. Was she a cold-blooded killer or a woman pushed to the absolute edge? Let's dive in and you can decide for yourself. The story begins like a classic American dream. Elizabeth Betty and Baccheglia met Daniel Broderick III at a party in 1965. She was a vibrant young woman from a well-to-do New York family. He was a brilliant, ambitious pre-med student at Notre Dame. It was a whirlwind romance. They married in 1969, and Betty dedicated herself to being the perfect wife. She worked to put Dan through both medical school at Cornell and then law school at Harvard, all while raising their growing family. She was the sole breadwinner, the primary caregiver, the unwavering support system behind the man who was destined for greatness. And great he became. After graduating, Dan Broderick's career exploded. He became one of San Diego's most prominent medical malpractice attorneys, pulling in over $1 million a year. They had it all: the country club memberships, the ski vacations in Colorado, the designer clothes, the luxury cars, and a sprawling home in La Jolla. On the surface, they were the picture of success, the couple everyone wanted to be. Betty had sacrificed her own ambitions, her own identity, to build this life, and for a while, it seemed worth it. But beneath the glossy veneer, cracks were starting to form. As Dan's success grew, he started to drift away. He became critical of Betty, belittling her in front of their friends, calling her old, fat, and boring. Betty, who had poured her entire being into this family, felt her world starting to crumble. Her suspicions grew when Dan hired a young, beautiful 21-year-old woman named Linda Colkina as his legal assistant. Linda was everything Betty felt she wasn't anymore. Dan repeatedly denied having an affair, calling Betty crazy and paranoid. He gaslighted her, manipulating her perception of reality until she questioned her own sanity. But Betty's intuition screamed that something was terribly wrong. The late nights at the office, the secret phone calls, the way Dan looked at Linda, it all pointed to a devastating betrayal. Finally, in 1985, after 16 years of marriage, Dan moved out of the family home and confessed. He had been having an affair with Linda all along. What followed was one of the most vicious and drawn-out divorce battles in California history, a process Betty later called divorce, Broderick style. Dan, using his legal expertise and connections, systematically dismantled Betty's life. He sold their family home without her consent, leaving her and the children temporarily homeless. He used his legal power to gain sole custody of the children, turning them against her. He obtained restraining orders, docked her support payments for every profanity she used, and left obscene, taunting messages on her answering machine. Betty's behavior grew increasingly erratic and desperate. She felt trapped, powerless, and completely erased from the life she had built. She vandalized Dan's new house, spray painting the walls and leaving a wedding cake in the bedroom. She drove her car into his front door. She left hundreds of profanity-laced, threatening voicemails. To the outside world, she looked like an unhinged, vengeful ex-wife. But in her mind, she was fighting back against years of psychological abuse and manipulation. She was a woman who had been discarded like an old appliance after her usefulness had expired. Was this the reaction of a monster, or the desperate screams of a woman being systematically destroyed? The final, devastating blow came in April 1989. Dan and Linda got married. They had the life Betty felt was stolen from her. Betty's world spiraled further. She felt invisible, her contributions forgotten, her very existence denied. Her friends tried to help, but she was consumed by her rage and a profound sense of injustice. The legal system had failed her. Her husband had replaced her. Even her children were, at times, alienated from her. She was utterly alone. Then came the morning of November 5, 1989. Just 7 months after Dan and Linda's wedding, Betty Broderick took a key her daughter had given her, drove to Dan and Linda's new home, and let herself in. She walked upstairs to their bedroom, carrying a .38 caliber revolver. 5 shots rang out in the pre-dawn silence. Linda was killed instantly. Dan, hit in the chest, was still alive, reportedly saying, "Okay, you shot me. I'm dead," before he succumbed to his injuries. Betty turned herself into the police. The trial that followed became a media sensation, televised and debated across the country. The prosecution painted her as a jealous, narcissistic murderer who couldn't stand to see her ex-husband happy with someone else. They played her vulgar voicemails and detailed her acts of vandalism, portraying a woman obsessed with revenge. They argued she had choices, that she could have moved on, but chose violence instead. But Betty's defense told a different story. They argued she was a victim of years of emotional and psychological abuse, a classic case of battered woman syndrome. Her lawyer argued that Dan Broderick had used his legal power not just to divorce Betty, but to annihilate her. He had driven her to the brink of insanity, leaving her with no way out. Many women across the country sympathized with Betty, seeing a reflection of their own painful divorces and feelings of being discarded. They sent her letters of support and money for her defense. She became a controversial symbol for scorned women everywhere. Her first trial ended in a hung jury, with some jurors believing it was manslaughter, not premeditated murder. But the second trial, in 1991, delivered a different verdict. Betty Broderick was found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 32 years to life in prison, where she remains to this day. She has been denied parole multiple times, with the parole board stating she still lacks insight and remorse for her crimes. Betty, however, maintains that she was a victim who was pushed too far, and that if she had a gun that day, she would have used it on herself. The Betty Broderick case is so compelling because it's not black and white. There's no clear hero or villain. Was she a cold, calculating killer who planned the murders? Or was she a woman driven mad by years of gaslighting, betrayal, and legal torment, who finally snapped? It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about marriage, divorce, and the psychological toll of emotional abuse. What do you think? Did the punishment fit the crime? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This story is a powerful reminder of how a picture-perfect life can hide a world of pain. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating true crime stories.